I've done a live stream here. I am doing one of my vertical live streams here. I thought it would be fun to do a kind of single row tour of the library. I know people have been kind of asking or requesting for a full collection tour. I definitely have that as a goal this year for the channel, but I thought for today it'd be fun to go through a row. I'm going to be going through this row of omnibuses today, kind of cherry picking, maybe not every single thing. I plan to be on for maybe half an hour today. So definitely as people trickle in, if you're interested, feel free to give that like, ask me questions in the comments. I'll try to get to as many as I can. But thanks everyone for coming. I know my live schedule is still a bit unpredictable, so I appreciate anyone who's able to make it out. If you're just catching up on live, on the replay though, welcome. I'm still really happy you're able to stop by. But yeah, I was looking through the shelves today, trying to see what I wanted to do for the live stream, and I really thought that just doing a single shelf tour sounded like a fun way to approach this, just because it's sort of an eclectic, whatever's on my row kind of thing. So yeah, I'm really excited to jump in, but as I said, if you want to go ahead and leave comments, I'm happy to talk to you guys while I'm online here. But yeah, then we can go ahead and get started. Before I jump in though, let me see, let me go ahead and grab the first book as I'm saying this. I mentioned it possibly on another video. I actually can't even remember if I announced it officially or not. But I am getting more of a proper live setup with a horizontal kind of video style, hoping to have some people on. I did also do my first recorded interview with a comic book creator last week, Joe Casey. If you haven't seen that on the channel and you're interested, check out that video. But for today's purposes, we're back to vertical live streaming here. And this is the first book I'm going to be talking about. This is the Avengers Omnibus Volume 1 by Stan Lee, Jack Kirby. This is the start of the Avengers, the Silver Age of comics. And this is an older printing. I've done a review of this on my channel. It basically contains the first 30 issues of the Avengers. This is an old printing where you still have kind of those end sheets, the kind of like gray marbled look, which I do enjoy. Yeah, just look at that. This early Avengers stuff is really fun. If you've been on my channel recently, you might have seen in the last couple months, I did review the first 3 volumes of these Avengers Omnibus editions. Just gonna flip through a little bit so you can see some of that incredible Silver Age artwork. Look at that. I know not everyone reads Silver Age. I know there's a lot of people that watch this channel that pretty much exclusively read modern books. While I understand that, I do think every era of comics is kind of its own treasure trove, as long as you know what you're getting and kind of can adjust accordingly. But yeah, that is the Avengers Omnibus Volume 1. You might be able to see here, sorry about the glare, but we do have the Volume 2 and Volume 3 here. I also have Volumes 4 and 5, but that's on my currently reading shelf. These are just books I have here. There's Avengers Volume 2, that's the cover I've got. And the Volume 3. See some of the issues included on this guy. Yeah, so this is like the next 30 issues basically, give or take. All really good stuff, you know, it's really fun to see. We're starting to get obviously into the Roy Thomas era of Avengers as well. Yeah, honestly, this has been really fun. I actually talked to Joe Casey last week about kind of the classic Avengers runs. It was a really fun conversation that honestly kind of rekindled my interest in this era as well. Yeah, I really enjoyed going through this. You know, last year, Marvel reprinted the first 4 volumes in this omnibus line and then released for the first time the Volume 5. But for me, I'm basically reading all this content for the first time. But yeah, these have been really strong and I find myself enjoying it more and more as it goes. I am in the Volume 4, just wrapping up the Kree-Skrull War. I'm going to start transitioning to the kind of Steve Englehart era for Avengers. Looks like we got a comment from Longboy Comics. Hope everyone's having a good day. Dom, any plans for full collection tour? Yes. So I talked about that right at the start of the live stream, but basically I do hope to get a collection tour video of some kind by the end of the year. That is my personal goal. My collection isn't huge. I'm just trying to figure out how to you know, light it and get it going, what format I want it in. So this is kind of a tester, just doing a little tour of this single shelf. But yeah, thanks for asking. It's definitely one of the most requested videos for the channel, and I do plan to get to that this year as able. Philly Fiction. Hey, I definitely enjoy some Silver Age books, but with the amount of modern comics coming out, it's hard to read everything. Oh, I totally understand, Phil. You know, honestly, I tend to lean modern sometimes only because I think narratively it's a little more my speed. It's easier to read. The style is just a bit more gripping to me. I think a lot of the Silver Age books, you have a ton of creativity, obviously, some beautiful artwork, and writing can be pretty solid, but sometimes it's more just exposition heavy, less art centric. But again, I think every era has some great stuff, and I've really enjoyed what I've read. So this omnibus is the Ultimates. This is part of the Marvel Ultimate Universe, of course. This is Mark Millar on writing, Brian Hitch on artwork. But this is an Avengers book, but in that universe, they're called the Ultimates. This has the two first kind of maxi series, Ultimates and Ultimates 2. So you basically get two big story arcs in this omnibus. But this is a beaut. They reprinted this, I think, last year as well. Really was happy to get a copy of this from the channel sponsor, organicpricebooks.com. If you're interested, you can use my discount code at that website, save $2. I do get a small commission when people order using that code, but it can save you some money and yeah, something to think about. But I reviewed this for that channel, and I actually had read these issues before. I used to have two Ultimate Collection paperbacks, but was very excited to finally get the omnibus. I'm just going to keep moving forward. Like I said, as people trickle in, if you have more comments, feel free to leave them. I'm so happy. Anyone who is currently watching, thank you so much. Definitely means a lot to me. And again, hopefully I'll get a better scheduling for these so people who want to show up live can make sure to plan accordingly. Okay, so this, let me frame it a little better. Ba-ba. This is the Avengers by Jonathan Hickman, the Hickvengers, some people call them. They reprinted these omnibuses last year as well. This is some of my most anticipated books that came out last year. I loved the run on Fantastic Four. I just devoured that, reviewed that on the channel like a year or two ago. So this was really anticipated, and yet I find myself, I'm still making my way through. I do really enjoy what I've read so far, but I'm actually still, confessional, in volume 1 right now. But if you like Hickman's Avengers, let me know in the comments. I'm definitely enjoying the ride, but I may be a little less attached to it as I was to like the Fantastic Four run, just personally, but so far, really good stuff. I'll flip through the art in that first volume in a second here, but let me just check the comments. Let's see. What absolute DC series are you most interested in? For me, it's Lemire's Flash. Oh wow, I didn't know Lemire was on Flash. Admittedly, I am a bit more of a Marvel fan, but DC has had some incredible announcements the last couple weeks. I know we even have some great omnibuses coming out next year I'm really eager about. What I have heard about the Absolute series, you know, I think I got to give it up to Batman. Batman is my first and foremost for DC Comics, so I think that I'd probably start there and work my way out. But as a fan of Jeff Lemire and The Flash, I'll definitely have to look out for that title. Let's see. Have you seen the leaks announcements for some of the Omnis? Yeah, that's so funny. I just addressed that. Yes, I've seen some of that news for the DC omnibuses. Let's see, you talk about the Nightwing Rebirth and Nightwing by Tom Taylor, definitely being on your list. Yeah, you know, those are definitely titles I'm interested in. I think I would probably prefer getting the New 52 Nightwing era reprinted over the Rebirth era. I wasn't able to get that New 52 run in Omnibus, and that's a run I have really loved what I've read, and I actually still need to finish. So I think doing it in omnibus format sounds like a great idea for next year. Also, the Superman Omnibus by, is it Philip Kennedy Johnson? I know that's a much anticipated one that I'd be eager to check out. I've loved what I've read of his War World saga in the paperback compendium. So that one I'm excited for. I'm trying to think. There was so many announcements, and honestly, so many of them. I was just like, oh my gosh. But yeah, certainly the Nightwings are high on my list as well. Yeah, so this is the Avengers by Hickman. Love the artwork on this. We have Steve Epting doing a lot of the art. Good handful of artists too, but Epting is definitely a standout for me. Yeah, look at that. Gosh, just really cool. The reprints kind of notoriously don't have the Avengers logo lining up at the bottom, as you can see. I believe the earlier printing made like a perfect Avengers logo, so that would have been nice, but you know, it's not too much of a deal breaker for me. I was just happy to have the books. Okay, what do we got? Superman Up in the Sky by Tom King is getting a deluxe. Yeah, I've always wanted to read that too. I love Tom King, so that's something I'm looking out for. Nightwing New 52 Omnibus is getting reprinted. Yeah, so that was one of the announcements that I'm really excited about. I think for Nightwing Omnibuses that they've announced, Tom Taylor might be at the top, followed by New 52, then probably Rebirth for me. I still need to get those Chuck Dixon compendiums too. I know that they announced a volume 2. I still need to get the volume 1. I've read some of that content in smaller paperbacks, but okay, next up, and again, as you guys trickle in, more comments, I'm happy to talk to you guys. I'm probably going to be here another 10, 20 minutes this morning, or at least it's morning for me. But again, huge thank you for everyone who stopped by. Yeah, so this is Thor, the Mighty Thor Omnibus, Volume 1 from Marvel Comics, including Journey into Mystery, 83 through 120, and Annual 1. So these are all the earliest appearances of Thor. So this is another one I haven't finished. I'm just starting to make my way into it. But this is one I've always wanted to check out as a Silver Age fan. You know, I like Jack Kirby, and I just had heard really good things about this run. I know Taylor from Taylor Talks Comics, if you're a fan of that channel, as I am, he's spoken really fondly about this Thor run. So yeah, I was really excited. I got a really good deal on this earlier in the year. Actually, wait, I think I got this as a gift, maybe? Can't even keep track anymore. I think I got this as a gift, but it was from my wife, and I know she got a really great deal on this. But yeah, really fun stuff. I really love it. You know, I've really enjoyed what I've read so far. It's just early stuff here from the Silver Age again. But yeah, this is my Thor Omnibus shelf currently. I did also used to have the Matt Fraction Omnibus. I did end up selling it after I read it. I did really enjoy it, just kind of saving space and trying to use the funds for other things as well. This was a huge get this year. This was a gift as well. Really, I believe it was. Cannot wait to finish this up finally. This is Thor by Walter Simonson. This is like the run that introduces Beta Ray Bill. This one has the recoloring that they've had for the previous printings of this book. I know that can be a hot topic, especially with collectors out there, especially those that really enjoyed the run reading it originally in single issues. I know a lot of people maybe aren't huge fans of the recoloring, but as someone who's really experiencing it with these recolors, I actually like it. I think it modernizes it a little bit, it gives it a really distinctive look, and it helps me a bit with just being immersed in this world. I mean, look at that. So these books that came out, I think, late 70s to the 80s, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe have that wrong, but around that time. But obviously the art looks a bit newer because of that recoloring. You know, everything kind of pops. I think it's kind of digitally assisted coloring. But yeah, I personally like it. And I've seen some stills of the original coloring, and while really good, I think I actually prefer this version. And I believe Walter Simonson does as well. This is considered kind of his preferred version. And I see why. I think it helps with just kind of the epicness of scope of the story we get here. But again, to each their own. I certainly understand people wanting the original. But I like the recoloring. That is the coloring they've done on every printing of this omnibus. I know some people are saying maybe the Epic Collections will give us the faithfully restored coloring. And I hope that's an option for collectors out there that prefer that. For me, though, having it all in one with that recoloring, it's just a dream. You know, I had some older paperbacks of some of Simonson's run and enjoyed it, but having the omnibus, it's just been really fun to go through so far. Whoa, got some comments. All right, let's see. Phil says, I really enjoyed Superman Up in the Sky. Some of my friends, though, not so much, but I will always recommend it. You know, I'm a really big Tom King fan, and for whatever reason, I feel like he's a really polarizing writer. But I always land on the side of I've enjoyed him, so I'm kind of predisposed to like it, I think. I also enjoy Superman comics in general, so I think that that's going to be a major hit for me. I'll definitely have to stay on the lookout for that when it gets released. Oop. Off-centered again. Hold on one moment. Let's try to get a better view of that. Okay. What other comments do we got here? Wonder Woman by Greg Rucka. That is another title. That is another title I had seen that I was interested in. I've heard that Rucka's run on Wonder Woman is one of the best. I think he might have had 2 runs on Wonder Woman, if I'm not mistaken, but heard really good things. I do enjoy Wonder Woman, and I think that's a run that I would be interested in. Not sure if you mentioned this before, but I hopped in, but what's the process of organizing on yourself? See Wolverine next to Captain America and Avengers. You know, Tom, thank you for the comment. I have not addressed this in this live stream. I've mentioned it briefly before on previous videos, but yes, the organization, as you can see, is pretty wacky. Like, this is what my shelf looks like. You know, I didn't put this together for this video. This is like how my shelves are currently organized. I had a system once upon a time where I kind of did character first, editions first, then characters I liked in chronological order the best I could, And then I tried to like go outward. So I would do like Spider-Man, Ultimate Spider-Man, Miles Morales Spider-Man, Ghost Spider, like Spider-Gwen, Venom, like kind of like things that in my mind were adjacent to the franchise. I do Fantastic Four next to Silver Surfer. But as my collection's grown, the shelf organization is just getting weirder. That is honestly one of the factors that has had me delay my tour video, just because I don't know if I need to just completely reorganize everything before I showcase it to all of you. But I'm really happy you picked up on that. I think that is super great. Let's see. Longboy Comics has the same question. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Everyone's picking up on this. I know a lot of people are probably going to be upset with how I tend to organize books here. But yeah, this is kind of how I'm doing it, based on just kind of availability of shelving. And I think also sort of procrastinating the complete reorganization I'm sure is coming. But hopefully things look a little bit more ordered, I think, before I do the full tour. But I love these comments. That really makes me laugh. I've been a little kind of like, cheekily self-conscious about that myself because I know my organization is just kind of goofy. Okay. I want a reprint of the Silver Age Daredevil so bad. Yeah, they've reprinted, or they've released volumes 2 and 3. I think they're reprinting the first volume of Daredevil volume 1. Let's see. What's your favorite Spider-Man omnibus? Batman omnibus? Great question, Marvel Knight. My favorite Spider-Man omnibus. Ooh. That changes sometime. I'm a fan of Spider-Man in general. The most recent one I read was Spider-Man by Chip Zdarsky. That was one of the most entertaining omnibuses I've read from Spider-Man in a while. Really loved that. I have a soft spot for Clone Saga as well. Don't ask me why, I just really like it. Same with the first Amazing Spider-Man that has almost the first 50 issues, like 40 something. That initial run by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko is just so iconic, and it really sets the foundation for everything, I feel like. But also Ultimate Spider-Man from Bendis and Bagley. That is one of the easiest on-ramps for Spider-Man in my mind. Still one of my favorite definitive Spider-Man stories. I don't know what to say. I'm going to go Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 1. If I have to today, that's going to be my pick. For Batman Omnibus, easily, Batman Scott Snyder Volume 1. No judgment, just curious. No judgment taken, Tom. I think that's a great question. I was actually wondering if I'd get comments on that because, again, my organization on the shelves is just kind of hysterical right now. Wolverine is a character I love, but recommend the Wolverine Omnibus. Let's see. But haven't really collected that much of it. Would you recommend the Wolverine Omnibuses above on the shelf? I've heard mixed things about a bunch of the stories included. Yeah, I think a lot of those stories, some of which are a bit dated at this point. The first volume, I recommend to almost anyone who likes Wolverine. It's all of his early solo stuff. You get the miniseries from Chris Claremont and Frank Miller, for example. You get all of his earliest time in Madripoor. The Patch stuff is in there. I honestly love that volume. Volume 2, I'm actually almost done with, and I like it. There's a lot of great miniseries and stories in it, but I feel a little less engaged than I was with that first volume. 3 and 4, I've heard some of the best things about, the kind of Larry Hama era. I've read some of those issues in the past, and I definitely agree there's some amazing stuff there. But 3, 4, and 5, I actually I'm still needing to get through. I love Wolverine. I love when he showed up in X-Men. I love what I've read of his solo stuff. So I've been collecting these as they come out, just so that when I finally get to it, they're not out of print. So I FOMO bought a lot of those. But yeah, I loved Volume 1. Volume 2 is still good as a fan of the character, but I have heard 3 and 4 really pick up. And what I've read from that Larry Hama era, I definitely see what they mean, and I enjoy it, and I can't wait to read that full run. Have you read JMS Thor? I have not. I need to do that. Let's see. If you could choose one Spider-Man graphic novel for a beginner to read, what would you recommend? As a graphic novel specifically, not like a run. Because I think a run, it's easy for me to say something like Ultimate Spider-Man. If you're looking for a single graphic novel, though, I'm going to go Spider-Man Blue by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. Really great book. They just released a gallery edition, I believe, last year. Okay, read a couple more of these, and I'm going to go back to the Omnis. Have you watched Deadpool and Wolverine? I just watched it on a double date last weekend. Ton of fun. As a Marvel guy, what convinces you to pick up a DC Omni? Tom, great question. So for me, I am more of a Marvel fan. I've said it before on the channel. I think my collection reflects that, at least the Omnibus. But I think that I should say I'm also a huge fan of DC Comics. I just find myself always gravitating towards the Marvel characters. I think that's because when I was first getting into comic books, I read a lot of the earliest stuff, like the Golden and Silver Age issues in reprint. And I think at the time, the differences between the publishers was a bit more pronounced, at least in my mind. I felt like Marvel characters were a lot more human and grounded. Setting a lot of it in New York, for example, I think it just really like humanized a lot of the conflict for me, and it was easier for me to engage in the narrative and the issues. I felt like a lot of the DC stuff I was reading around the similar time felt a bit sanitized. It was a little hard for me to just connect with personally. I still have a lot of great love for it. Silver Age Flash and Green Lantern, for example, are huge DC books during that era I really enjoy, that I've read. But that's why I think I was a Marvel fan initially. I also, grew up with Spider-Man, so that was like a huge, But to answer your question, after ranting for a little bit, sorry, what makes me pick up a DC comic omnibus? Honestly, a character or run I prefer, along with pricing. I'm a huge Batman fan, so Batman kind of always catches my eye first. After that, it's just, have I heard good things about it? Like Secret Six, I just recently read that omnibus not too long ago on the channel. That was someone, I just got exposed to that team in Infinite Crisis, and I, saw that omnibus coming out. I just thought, I'm going to read it. Ended up loving it. Same thing with Grayson. I like Nightwing. I was curious about what that Secret Agent omnibus was about. I like the creators. Ended up loving that as well. Superman's a character I like, so picked up a couple of his. But yeah, I think for me, kind of like Marvel, it's, characters or runs I've heard about or I'm interested in, creators that I like, and then price point usually drives it. But I just find myself gravitating towards more Marvel, but that's not because I dislike DC. It's just, I don't know, that's what I look at first, I guess. Okay, so we finished looking through Jason Aaron's Thor a bit. I am still making my way through that collection as well. I'm somewhere in Volume 1. All really good stuff for Thor fans out there. Once I finish the Volume 1, if you guys want a review, let me know. I'll try to get to that. And then I'll go ahead and get to some of my Daredevil Omnis over here. Or actually, all of my Daredevil Omnis currently, with the Bendis Omnibus on the way. I'll read a couple more comments, and we'll jump into Daredevil. I want to start reading Chip Zdarsky. Recommend a few comic stories by him. Please recommend Marvel ones. Great. I love Chip Zdarsky. If you're looking for omnibuses, I mentioned it a moment ago, but his Spider-Man omnibus, let's see, is it within arm's reach? It is. This right here, if you're looking for an omnibus, was a awesome collection from Chip Zdarsky. Just read it and reviewed it on the channel if you want more information about it. But that collects his run on Spectacular Spider-Man, along with his mini-series Spider-Man Life Story with Mark Bagley and Spider-Man Spider Shadow. Really a great collection. If you're looking for smaller Marvel Zdarsky work, though, one that I can recommend is this one within arm reach. Let's see. This one, not a lot of people talk about. This is not an omnibus. This is just an oversized hardcover. Fantastic Four: Fate of the Four. This takes place sometime after Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars, and it primarily follows the Thing and the Human Torch as they kind of bounce around on adventures. Great humor, great heavy drama. For fans of Fantastic Four or these characters, or just good storytelling, this is one that I think is really underrated that I don't hear a lot of people talking about from Chip Zdarsky. Really good stuff. Of course, Zdarsky's Daredevil run, much celebrated, and in my mind with good reason. Always can recommend that as well. Let me think. I am a Chip Zdarsky fan, so this is a great question. Let's see. Oh, last one. Howard the Duck by Chip Zdarsky and Joe Quinones. This is a small omnibus you can usually still find on sale. Great humor book with a lot of heart. Really, really fun, especially if you want like a little bit of a breather from the superheroes genre while still kind of being adjacent to it. Really great book. Excellent for new readers, but if you're a fan of the Marvel Universe, the jokes and stuff in this I thought were fantastic. Okay. Well, cool. I had a lot of Zdarsky within arm reach. That's great. Let's see. This is better than the Bible. I'm going to say false on that. I'm a Christian myself, and the Bible's the best book out there. Okay, let's see. Critical media. For me, Marvel just does a better job of collecting and mapping omnibuses. Yeah, okay. DC did more production. I probably own more DC Omnis. You know what's funny? I think that DC Omnis, I've had a lot that are made amazing. I just feel like their catalog of omnibuses are maybe not as extensive as Marvel. Although with all the announcements for 2025, I'm certainly excited how much DC's leaning more into the omnibus game in the upcoming year. Grab any manga recently? Great question. You know what's funny? I'm not a huge manga guy. Every so often I'll read one, or my brother will recommend an anime for me to check out. What's funny is I really like comics. My brother's always really liked manga and anime, and our paths have not crossed all that much, barring a few exceptions. I definitely appreciate that medium. It's just not one that I gravitate towards myself. That being said, I've enjoyed what I've read of Death Note, One Piece. I'm trying to think what other mangas I've enjoyed. Yeah, pretty much those. Okay, so this is the Silver Age Daredevil. Really good stuff here for fans of that classic era Daredevil. If I haven't mentioned it on the channel recently, Daredevil is my favorite Marvel comic character, my favorite superhero character of all time. He is the #1 spot. Big Daredevil fan. I also have a Daredevil collection in paperback and smaller hardcovers somewhere else. But these are just the Daredevil omnibuses I've got. Thanks to all these reprints they've been doing the last couple of years, I finally had a chance to upgrade some of my collections I've had for a long time. Like in the case of Frank Miller and the companion omnibus here. What else do we got? Jason Aaron's Thor just ticks around every box for me. So good. Yeah, honestly, so far I'm really loving it. I read all the gore stuff. Really, really fun. Really love Hawkeye Fraction run. Any suggestions for similar runs? I feel like the Hawkeye run from Fraction and David Aja is such a unicorn. There's not a ton I've read in mainstream Big Two comics that has felt like that. So I'm afraid I don't really have a lot of great recommendations for that. That is just such a unicorn to me. If you find something like that, though, let me know. I'd love to read more stuff like that. Thanks for the recommendations, of course. DC just announced a ton of books. Yes, we talked about some of those announcements. So excited for that. In response to Ben's question, I'd recommend Ant-Man, Superior Foes of Spider-Man by Nick Spencer. Smaller scale stories like Hawkeye, great humor, lots of heart. Yeah, these are great recommendations. Thank you so much, Longboy Comics. But yeah, this is the Frank Miller kind of saga on Daredevil between his proper run and then all the kind of extra materials, Man Without Fear, Born Again, miscellany. Frank Miller is credited, and I understand why, and I agree with, for kind of revitalizing, retooling Daredevil into kind of the modern incarnation of Daredevil we have today. I think that his impact on the character cannot be overstated. Just brilliant. And having these in omnibus form after having them in paperback for over a decade, I was just elated at these reprints of the last year or two. Really fun. If you've never read this, this run, it really leans into kind of this crime noir feel. Goes heavy, dark drama, great action sequences, great psychological character work. It elevates Kingpin to Daredevil's arch nemesis, introduces Elektra, the Hand, kind of retcons some of his origin story in a really good way. Yeah, and then this stuff, more Frank Miller goodies that are just some of my favorite on the character. Definitely recommend. If you're a Daredevil fan or you want to break into the character, Frank Miller's is one of just the definitive experiences in my mind. Honestly, one of my favorite Marvel runs of all time. Okay, let's do a couple more comments and we'll finish these last couple out because I have my next appointments to get to. But thanks to everyone for coming out. I love all these comments. You guys have been so engaging this morning. Like I said, if you're watching on replay though and have questions, comment. I'll go ahead and reply to you the best I can. Let's see, last couple questions here. What Daredevil run would you recommend? I really want to start reading some of his stories. I think Daredevil, and again, I'm biased, I love this character, but I think that Daredevil is unique in that for the last, 20, 30 years, I feel like most of his runs have been hits. I think it's really hard to miss. My personal favorite run is the Brian Michael Bendis run, which I don't have an omnibus here, but my volume 1 has shipped from Organic Price Books. I went ahead and pre-ordered that. Volume 2 is, I believe, coming out end of year or beginning of next year. Oh, wow, the glare is horrible. Sorry about that. Gotta go maybe this way. I don't know. Doing the best I can here. Brian Michael Bendis, my favorite run. Immediately after that is this run here, the Ed Brubaker run. Brubaker is maybe more known for his kind of crime, detective-y like comics and a lot of the indie publishers. But he, every so often, delves into the big two with things like Captain America, one of my favorite runs as well. Gotham Central, Mortal Iron Fist. But anyway, he did this run on Daredevil. It is awesome. It took place directly after Bendis, and in my mind was the most seamless transition I've ever read between creators on this title. Dark, brooding, awesome. My exact favorite tone of Daredevil, Bendis, and this run here. Another great place to start other than Bendis, though. Frank Miller, I mentioned earlier. If you're looking for something a little more fresh, Chip Zdarsky, I think is a great spot. If you want something with a bit of a lighter touch, but is still really good in my opinion, Mark Waid's tenure on Daredevil, all of which we'll get to in a minute. All great starting points in my mind for Daredevil. Okay. What else do we got? What are those Batman about? I think you're referring to these omnibuses here. Let's see if we can go quick. Batman Black and White. It's kind of an art piece, collection of little short story vignettes. Let's see. Batman by Jeff Loeb, Tim Sale. Just incredible early era Batman stories. Scott Snyder. This was during the New 52. Perfect for new readers in my mind. Batman and Robin was a father-son narrative in many ways that I absolutely enjoyed. Let's see, maybe let's lower it if we're talking about Batman. Boop, boop, boop. Batman, Rise and Fall of the Batman. This is really a Bat family book, so it's really about the team of people that are usually in Batman's corner. Really great book so far. Batman Detective Comics. I just started this omnibus when I got it as a gift. That one's also by Peter J. Tomasi, like Batman and Robin. Another just kind of great psychological Batman stories. Okay, favorite is Frank Miller, issue 191. Nice. What do you like more, newer comics or old ones? Or with newer reprints? Personally, I like newer comics more because I think it's a little bit better, but no offense to Todd McFarlane. Even Todd McFarlane, he's not that old in the scope of comics. You know, Todd McFarlane, definitely like 90s era, I think is most associated with him, still doing great stuff. But I mean, I've read stuff as old as the 30s, 40s. I think Silver Age is usually how far back I'll typically go for a comic, but I find myself enjoying maybe more contemporary books. I think 2000s onward are easiest for me to read, but I find myself having a sweet spot like late 70s to present. But again, I still have a ton of love for the Silver Age of comics, you know, 50s, 60s, stuff like that. I keep doing this. I keep framing it with the glare. Sorry. Okay, as I get this set up, let's look at a couple more comments here. I also fixed it and there's still a glare. Sorry guys, still working this out. Okay, just worked on the new Batman cartoon as a head writer. Oh, Brubaker did. Yes. Oh my gosh, I literally finished Cape Crusader this morning. If you haven't seen Cape Crusader on Amazon Prime Video, it's kind of the spiritual successor of the Batman animated series. J.J. Abrams produced it. You have Ed Brubaker there. You have Bruce Timm from the original Batman animated series. 10 episodes were released. But yeah, I finished that this morning. Really enjoyed it. Just finished reading the second omnibus of Bendis' Daredevil this morning. Phenomenal. Yeah, honestly, the Netflix show I think was heavily influenced by that. Yeah, love Bendis. If you enjoyed that and you haven't read Ed Brubaker's stuff, which I just showed, highly recommend that run as well. Like I said, it's a seamless transition to me. I think both runs are absolutely incredible. And in fact, the Bendis through Brubaker era is my favorite, like, peak Daredevil era that I've read so far. Oh, yep, can't wait to jump into the Brubaker run. Should have read the next comment, sorry. Didn't realize Brubaker was attached to Cape Crusader. I'm sold. Yeah, high recommend. Really, really fun show. Like I said, half an hour. If you like Batman animated series, I think you're pretty well disposed to like it. Okay, last couple books here, then we're going to go ahead and sign off. This is Batman by, or sorry, not Batman. Got Batman on the brain now. Daredevil by Mark Waid, Volume 1 and 2. These omnibuses were reprinted this last year as well. So this came out after the Shadowland era. I know Shadowland just got an omnibus. That's a lot of the Andy Diggle stuff. This took place after that. Admittedly, Shadowland era is one of my lower points for Daredevil. Personally, it just wasn't my favorite. There were still some moments that were really cool, but wasn't my tip-top era. I'm starting to decide if I want to upgrade to that Shadowland omnibus. Perhaps. But yeah, basically after the events of Shadowland, without going into any spoilers there, Daredevil was ready for a shift in tone, and in comes Mark Waid. And he's just kind of a lighter touch. A lot of people call this the return of happy-go-lucky Daredevil, and I think a lot of fans write it off after enjoying the gritty noir aspect of Daredevil for so long. But I think to do that, if you haven't read this for yourself, you're really maybe underestimating just this run. You know, if you've read it and you still didn't like it, that's totally fair, but there's so much more here than happy-go-lucky antics. I think you still have the same Matt Murdock. He just has this thin veneer of trying to be optimistic and looking at the brighter side. But there's times where that little mask begins to slip, and I think that there's a lot of maturity in this run and nuance. The art throughout as well. We have some amazing artists on this run. This is where I was introduced to Chris Samney for the first time, was during this era of Daredevil. But yeah, if you want a more vibrant Daredevil experience, great artwork, lighter touch, like I said, I don't think there's a better one than Mark Waid. Absolutely incredible modern run. And this might be controversial, but the last time I did my rankings for Daredevil runs I enjoyed, I think I'd probably do Bendis, Mark Waid, Frank Miller. And again, I don't know if that's crazy, but it's just my experience. Love those runs. They're so different, but I like them all. Okay, last book for our single shelf tour. I know we've kind of deviated. We've talked about like Wolverine and Batman too, but tried to stick to that single shelf here. So I got our last omnibus here. Like I said, I do have the Brian Michael Bendis Daredevil Omnibus Volume 1 coming in. Yes, finally time to upgrade my paperbacks. But for right now, this is Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky Omnibus Volume 1. Just came back out a couple weeks ago. I did do a review on the channel if you're interested in getting more content on it. Before we jump in though, let me just read a couple more comments here, and then we'll dive in. Do you have a comic where Superman is able to project a mini version of himself that had all of his Superman powers? I do not have that. I'm not sure where that is. That sounds like that could exist, and if it does, I'm willing to bet it's like Gold or Silver Age. But again, could be wrong, but curious. Do you have a specific 6-issue or so story that you'd say is your favorite Daredevil? I'd say Inside and Out for me. Oh yeah, that's a great storyline. That is so hard. Favorite 6-issue Daredevil experience. You know, I really don't know. I think my favorite Daredevil are these longer runs where you have one big story kind of flowing into the next. If I'm looking at like a single Daredevil work standalone, I think Man Without Fear by Frank Miller, that kind of origin retelling is really high up there for me. I've also always been partial to Daredevil Yellow by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, but man, Inside and Out is a great story arc. Do you own the Civil War box set? I do not. I just have a little paperback of Civil War. I used to have a bunch of the big oversized hardcovers. I sold those a long time ago, though. I'm hoping we get omnibuses for Civil War, though. I would love that. I actually just read Civil War 2, Marvel Civil War 2. I'm going to do a review for that on the channel. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews on that, but it was time I read it for myself. And yeah, if you're interested in my thoughts on that, you'll see it on the channel in a few weeks. Do you have Fantastic Four by Mark Waid Omnibus? Yes, I am reading the Mark Waid Micro Ringo Fantastic Four Omnibus. One of my most anticipated of the year. Had read the beginnings of that run before, but now I have it all in the omnibus format. I have it and currently reading right now. Yes, big fan of Fantastic Four. Hey friend, hesitating about getting the Chip Zdarsky Daredevil. Will I need to get the Devil's Reign Omnibus or just go with Chip Zdarsky 1 and 2? Great question, Christian from Denmark. Hi, thank you for tuning in. My recommendation, unless you're like a super completionist, I think the volume 1 and 2 is just fine. I used to have the Devil's Reign Omnibus. I actually sold it after I read it. It was really good stuff. Some of the tie-ins were really fun, but the main story I think is the most important part, and they're including those main event issues in the volume 2 omnibus. So I think you'll be able to get pretty much a complete story without missing too much, just with volumes 1 and 2. But again, that's my opinion. If you're a fan of these event omnibus books, I actually thought that omnibus was really fun. But if you're just looking from a Daredevil perspective, I think volume 1 and 2 should have more than enough. Born Again has got to be up there. Oh my gosh, yeah, Born Again is a huge, amazing one as well. Bendis had a handful that really engaged me too. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's dive in. Before I do though, the spine. This sold me on it. I know a lot of people were mad that it wasn't uniform or maybe black like some of the other ones, but I love the red spine with the kind of yellowy font. It is beautiful. I'm hoping the volume 2 looks just like this, but with a different picture. But I love it. And you get some of the same stuff on the back. Oh man, anyway, the spine really got me on this. I thought Marvel did great on that. The art here, especially the issues by Marco Cacchetto, beautiful artwork. I mean, the Daredevil art we get in this is some of my favorite in the franchise's history, and I'm a huge fan of Daredevil, as I just said. Zdarsky, one of my favorite writers. I knew this was going to be a hit, but I was not expecting how much I would love it, and I really do. With the caveat that I still have to read a few issues at the very end, but I'm waiting for volume 2. I had collect these in oversized hardcover until I found out that they, I think, are canceling the end of that. They're not doing a volume 5 of the oversized hardcovers, just volume 1 and 2 of the omnibus. So went ahead and sold, and I think I'm just going to go the omnibus route. But yeah, really great stuff. Love this book. Okay, guys, and that is my single shelf tour, asterisk, with a couple other things thrown in. As I just get set up here, any last minute questions beyond for another minute or two, then we'll go ahead and sign off. Again, if you want to get your own collected editions, feel free to check out our sponsor, organicpricebooks.com. Again, Promo code TheComicBookReport at checkout, save $2. Again, if you use that code, I get a small commission, but if you're shopping, definitely recommend those guys. Great packaging, great to work with. Really have enjoyed it. I was a customer before I was a sponsee. But yeah, good stuff, guys. Let me go ahead and read these last comments, and then I'll say goodbye for today. The spine looks so cool. Oh, I'm so happy to hear someone else liked it. Can't wait to read Ultimate Spider-Man by Jonathan Hickman. Oh my gosh, that is one of the ones I'm most looking forward to in collected edition. Love Hickman, love Spider-Man. I've heard nothing but good things about that. Confrontation with Punisher in the 3rd issue of Zdarsky. Yep, amazing stuff. Don't want to go into too many spoilers, but yeah, good stuff with Zdarsky. What's your favorite DC event? Easy for me, Infinite Crisis. That's my favorite one I've ever read. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, guys, if you haven't been on my channel yet and you're interested, I did a review for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, the deluxe edition. I'm a huge fan of that book. If you're a fan of the channel, you'll probably heard me talk about it ad nauseum. But yes, I upgraded to the deluxe edition, did a full review on the channel. Again, if you're interested, check that out. Yeah, I think that's all, guys. Thank you so much for joining, and hopefully to catch you next time. Thanks, everyone.